This bike was sitting by the curbside marked free. Hi, this is Tony 10 Speed. My goal is to get this bike in good working order for my grandson with a minimal cost and a minimal number of replacement parts. We'll do it in segments over the coming weeks, so I want you to stay tuned. Let's take a look at first thing that we're going to do. As we can see, there's extensive rust on the rear derailleur. The cassette, which is actually not in bad condition except for the rust. The chain, which is impossible to even bend, which will have to be replaced. Extensive rust on the front derailleur and chain rings. And extensive pitting on most of the frame and chrome of the handlebars. Before we try to get this rusty bolt off, we're going to use a little bit of rust penetration material called knocker loose. You could use WD-40. We'll spray it on here and leave it for a few minutes. While we're waiting for our knocker loose or other substance we put on here to do its job, we'll go ahead and remove the chain. Well, after a little bit of work using pliers to bend this back and forth, finally got our rusty chain out. Instead of discarding it, we'll save it to size the new chain that's going to go in. After removing the chain, let's go ahead and pull our side pole brakes together and disconnect the cable. Release. And then we're going to take two 15mm box wrenches and we're going to try to get that off. If it doesn't come off easily, try to use a mallet. There we go. Let's reset this again. One on each side. There. And we'll go ahead and loosen the bolts. Until the wheel drops out. Next, with a 9mm wrench, we'll release the cable. We'll go ahead and cut the end so we can slide the cable out. And disconnect the rear derailleur. We'll do the same for the front derailleur. And with our same 9mm box wrench, we'll go ahead and loosen the bolt holding the clamp for the front derailleur. And remove the front derailleur. To get at the chain rings, we're going to need to remove the pedal. And then we're going to remove with a ratchet and a 14 millimeter attachment. We're going to try to loosen the crank bolt. There we go. Using a crank bolt extractor, we'll take off the whole crank. Should suffice. Turn the handle of the bolt extractor. Crank. We'll get that crank off. Now we can work on some of this rust. Take this piece of plastic covering off. There are small little tabs here. And just pop those. We cannot get the crank arm off, so we're going to set this whole portion, the crank and chain rings, into our rust solvent. The rust solvent we're going to use is called Evaporust. It's biodegradable, safe for the skin and eyes, and is reusable, so after we finish we can pour it back into the container. Into our container we'll place our front derailleur, rear derailleur, our chain rings attached to the crank. We're also going to throw in our old chain because we're going to need to at least have this pliable so we can measure against this for our new chain. Then we'll go ahead and fill it with our rust remover. Get that chain submerged the best we can. And then cover it and leave it for approximately 36 to 48 hours. Okay, our big moment with Evaporust. We have our drivetrain components sitting at the Evaporust for about 36 to 40 hours. We're going to take them out and dip them in water and see how we did. It looks like, although we removed some of the paint, most of the rust, if not all of it, is gone. And we'll dry this a little bit more, and we'll recycle the Evaporust and pour it back into its original container so we can reuse it. Now we'll go ahead and lubricate all our pivot points. See our video in the upper right hand corner on pivot point lubrication. Finally, we'll set these all aside for reinstallation. Now that we've finished cleaning the drivetrain, it's time to turn our attention to some other matters, namely the cassette, the hub, and the wheel itself. So stay tuned for another episode of This Old Bike. This is Tony at Tone 10 Speed. Safe cycling.